Today I'm going to talk about a couple examples of biodiversity and its kind of value locally, and discuss some of the problems we're finding with different groups of organisms in Southern California. One example, there's several snakes that we're finding are declining throughout Southern California. And one example of a snake decline is this species. This is the Western Terrestrial Garter snake. And these guys are locally, used to be locally abundant in the San Bernardino Mountains near Big Bear. And that was their only site, the only place they occurred in Southern California. Currently, they're very rare in those mountains. And we think what's happened is that their food items, their main prey, were these yellow-legged frogs, mountain yellow-legged frogs. And as these frogs declined, over the last several decades, these snakes declined. And one of the big causes for the frog declines, as we understand it, is the introduction of trout into areas that didn't used to have trout for fishing. And so as the trout were introduced for fishing, the frogs were eaten by the trout, and then the food of the snakes disappeared. And so then as their food disappeared, they slowly have been declining. And we see similar patterns in the Sierra Nevadas, where this has been studied pretty well as well. In addition, invertebrates are one group that we've been looking at, and we've been finding several things of interest. One is that there's one of the largest insects per se in Southern California are these Jerusalem crickets, and they're these very large primitive crickets that actually don't have wings, and they don't sing like normal crickets where you hear them singing. They actually look for their mates by thumping their back legs at different frequencies. So different species of Jerusalem crickets have different beats that they actually bang their legs against the ground to attract mates. But you can see the size of these things. And up until the last couple decades, there was only thought to be one Jerusalem cricket across all of California. And some recent research by Dave Weissman from the California Academy of Sciences, as well as the work we're doing, has helped identify new species of Jerusalem crickets and really looked at what was thought to be one species of Jerusalem cricket and found that there's multiple species hidden within that one species, and that a lot of them are different both geographically, and then they are different morphologically. So these are examples of the largest one. This is what's called the Mahogany Jerusalem cricket. This is a small individual from the San Bernardino Mountains. This is a really large individual from near Ramona. And then this is one from along the coast. And you see they're very unicolor. This mahogany color is what he's calling them. They're very different than the majority of species in California, which have kind of yellow and black bars. What's interesting about Jerusalem crickets, well, about this species, is it's so large. It's the largest terrestrial insect in Southern California, and it's undescribed. It doesn't have a name yet. One of the most interesting things that's recently come to light involves the western fence lizard, which is very common locally, and it seems to persist even in small fragmented landscapes. And so it's not declining like a lot of other species are locally. And what it does is it has an element in its blood that, for whatever reason, this element kills the spirochete that causes Lyme disease. And so by having this lizard present and in our local ecosystem, it's inadvertently protecting us from this disease that's a very bad problem on the East Coast. And so if we didn't have these lizards, if they declined because of light pollution or house cats or any other local reason, we might see increases in the prevalence of Lyme disease that's affecting us and our kids. So that's a very important ecosystem process that's being played out by this lizard, and where we have no idea of what other processes these other species that are declining or that are undescribed, what processes they might be playing to help protect us or add value to the society that we live in locally. So if you have the opportunity to go in and look around your house and look around your yard and start looking at the animals that occur in your habitat, and have the opportunity to go into nature and observe animals in their habitat, at local parks, on local beaches, and really casually observe how they operate and what seems to be affecting them. It's a real good way for you to learn and try to figure out how you can best be a steward of the local environment, so that we can both have a society that has people living in this landscape, but also is protecting a lot of its biodiversity and the values that are intrinsic in that biodiversity, even though we don't know what a lot of those values are as yet.